You are watching the series called More Titanic Lives. The original series is on my channel, Billy's Prisoner Set Free.
The beginning, what most sailors would call an unlucky ship. But the worst luck of all is represented by another voyage which began far to the north, off the coast of Greenland. It had been a warm winter on the Isle of Greenland. On the island's western coast, and through its deep fjords, the great inland ice cap moved toward the sea at speeds of 10 to 100 feet per day. When these enormous masses of frozen fresh water, averaging 5,000 feet thick, reached the cliffs along the coast, they broke off from the glacier. Because of the warmer weather that winter of 1911 and 1912, more of these icebergs were calved from the parent mass than was usual. And in the spring of 1912, one of these huge islands of ice, sometimes called the Rocks of Despair by mariners, began its 5,000-mile voyage toward its rendezvous in the North Atlantic.
So, did you catch it? 5,000 miles.
The International Ice Patrol is an organization that tracks icebergs moving into the shipping lanes between Europe and America.
Now, there's something suspicious about this Ice Patrol. It might be like Homeland Security, just an excuse to smuggle items in the country and smuggle items out of the country.
It monitors the position of ice and warns ships of its presence. The Ice Patrol was established in 1913 as a direct response to the Titanic tragedy. Dr. Donald L. Murphy is Chief Oceanographer with the Ice Patrol.
We generally consider...
Yeah, I'm going to let you guess who this is. I think I know who it is, but you take a look at him, and I'll tell you who I think it is. I'm not sure. I'm not going to do a pick try here.
The glaciers of Greenland generate many thousands of icebergs each year. It's really hard to count them because, in fact, one gigantic iceberg, something that might be on the order of a kilometer in diameter, can generate many, many small icebergs as it breaks apart.
Okay, now there's also something suspicious about Greenland. Now, I recall watching a few years ago videos that even questioned the existence of Greenland. And someone in one of those videos said something like, go ahead, try to book a flight. Now, supposedly Greenland is a subsidiary or run by Denmark, but it's independent. There are videos you can watch that will show you that Greenland is not as big as they project it to be. It's actually much smaller. And the population supposedly is about 56,000. Does anyone have any thoughts on Greenland? Can anyone contribute? Please leave some comments. Incidentally, I love comments. I know that you're out there. Even if you just put a few words, it helps me to know you're listening. And I don't just see numbers about the number of views or the number of time anybody spent on my video.
Moves down towards the shipping lanes. They range from what we call growlers, which are something on the order of 10 or so meters in length, and they might be a few, maybe 10,000 or so pounds, 10,000 or so tons of ice. That's the smallest range that we deal with, and they can extend up to very large. Now, in the western North Atlantic, a 1-million-ton iceberg is a large iceberg, is considered to be a large iceberg, and a 5 or 10 million ton iceberg is newsworthy. Well, we don't know what size the iceberg was that the Titanic struck. It's I could only.
But I do. I did a video on it. I called it the Great White Sphinx Iceberg, and I got that from a Jacques Cousteau exploring the Antarctic. He was so delighted he saw a iceberg that was almost identical to the Great Sphinx of Egypt. And those that were in their long johns, their red long johns, climbed all over it. And it even had paws, like the paws of the lion, to let you know they were lying.
Judge the size of that iceberg by the sort of damage that was inflicted on the Titanic. It seems to have been a dramatic collision. And
do you know who that probably is? Now, I'm not sure, and I don't have a picture to prove anything, but I think it's Ronnie Howard, Opie.
So you can expect that it was maybe on the order of 60 to 100 meters long or something of that nature.
Or something,
and perhaps could have been
10,000 pounds or 10,000 tons.
Satellite technology.
Doesn't matter.
Placed
I'm just ad-libbing.
On icebergs near the glacial front.
Got 20 minutes to make this video.
Tracked icebergs for several years. They calved from, let's say, the iceberg calved from the center of the west coast of Greenland. Its first motion would actually be northward along the coast of Greenland.
You know, I don't doubt that ice falls off of glaciers, because I actually traveled to Alaska and we saw some ice come off a glacier. I don't know if they use explosives to attract people to come up and watch ice fall off a glacier, fall off a big chunk of ice and put it into the water. But they're just little dips of ice cubes in the water. That's all they are. No big floating mountains called icebergs.
And then it only turns to the west in the northern part of Baffin Bay, at which time it starts to take a southerly track down the coast of Baffin Island and down the coast of Labrador, and finally off by Newfoundland and into the shipping lanes. The iceberg that struck the Titanic most likely had been moving in the ocean for about 2 or 3 years.
Okay, so 2 or 3 years of traveling in the water, a big floating mountain, right? And it gashed a hole in the hull of a ship made of steel, and the hole was approximately the length of a football field, 300 feet, right? Well, it's all in the script, people, but not in reality.
The thousands of icebergs calved on Greenland's coast, it is estimated that only about 1/4 to 1/2% ever make it all the way to the shipping lanes. For a ship to hit an iceberg is not a very likely event.
What the Titanic was sailing into was an ice at 30.
This is Pellegrino. We know he's a liar. Claims he has a PhD from New Zealand, University of New Zealand. I think it's Wellington, somewhere in there. And they deny it, and the New York Times even writes him up and denies it. He's a liar. There's no credibility. And yet, he makes a documentary.
miles wide and 70 miles across. And Jim Powell has worked out some of the figures for surface area or diameters of icebergs and how many times the Titanic would have had to sail in and out before striking an iceberg. And it could have passed through that field 100 times without hitting anything. I mean, it was a highly improbable thing.
Did you see the
On the
smile
night
on
of
his
April
face?
14th, 1912, the stage was set. The Titanic was steaming.
Notice he said the stage was set because it's a Masonic play and it's done in your head. You weren't there, I wasn't there, but you're told the stage was set.
Westward at a speed of 22.5 knots. The great island of ice moved unseen somewhere out there across the liner's course. There was a chill in the air. The Titanic's wireless, a newfangled device recently invented by Marconi, had been receiving warnings of ice. At one point, the steamer California reported that she was stopped and surrounded by ice. The Titanic's wireless operator replied, "Shut up. I'm busy."
Okay, now tell me something, honestly. If there was a ship called Titanic, and if there was a wireless operator, and his job was to convey messages, plus he's on the boat, do you really think that he would send back a reply, "Shut up, I'm busy"? See, they love to lie. And they make the lies so great that they become believable in the minds of people that will not screen the hoax lie system. I hope these videos have been helpful to you. And once again, I'd like to ask you, please leave me a comment. I need to know you're listening. I need to know you finished the video. Everybody wants to make 3-minute videos. I just simply can't because I have a lot to say and a lot to give to you. So please let me know you're out there. Just leave a comment and I know you're at least listening. Thank you much. End of video.